Hi, I'm Richard.
Hi, I'm John.
We're from the Phoenix Society, and we're going to talk about measure in terms of rapier. But you know what? It actually applies to everything. So, in the 17th century, they didn't have measurements the way we do. And so distances were decided by relativity. What I mean by that is measure. Here we are. We are both in measure. What that means is John can step high and step him quite easily. We're very close measure. If John were to back up, and he's actually going to be probably off the camera at this point. John is now out of measure. If I were to lunge, I just can't reach him. I think even my pass won't reach him. So he's so far away, he's out of measure. Same applies for me. He can't get me. He lunges. Nope, out of measure. Passes, maybe. Just there. So, and that's a long tempo he's going to pass. So, camera. So what's going on with measure is when you fight an opponent, you want to make sure that you're either in measure and not out. Now it sounds pretty simple at first, but this applies to people with like longer or shorter weapons. So roughly the same size sword, roughly the same body shape. Our measure is very, very similar. When I'm in measure, so is John. That means when I can stab him, he can stab me. But let me change this up a little bit. I'm unarmed. My measure changes dramatically. John gets into position. I am not in measure. Can't reach it. Can't pass it. John is in measure. Right? Pretty obvious stuff. What that means is when you're fighting with somebody, if your sword is shorter, or you're shorter, or they're taller, or they have a long sword, you don't want to be in a position where they're in measure and you're not. Because what they can do now is they essentially get free attacks. And even though I parry John with my hand, it doesn't matter. He gets to launch free attacks at me all day long. If I had like a dagger or something like that, I can't get him. That means if I had a shorter weapon, I have to be much closer to him to make him a threat. I either want to be out of measure completely where he can't reach me, right? Or I want to be here, where if I had a knife or a rapier, I'll be in range. So measure is relative. And when you fight a person or you're sparring, you want to make sure that you're in measure or out of measure. You don't want to be caught in that weird gray area. If you're taller than your opponent, or your sword's longer, the sweet spot for you is going to be when you're in measure and they're not in measure with you, where they have to do extra things to reach you, like pass or move their foot. And that's our take on measure.